Welcome to Bullish on Business, where we spotlight entrepreneurs who charge forward with innovation and heart. I'm Rose Odette, your host and fellow founder. So today we are very excited because we're going to be meeting with Jaime Edmondson, and we're going to dive right into the magical and enchanting world of branding. And that is a sneak peek into what you're going to be hearing about, which makes her extremely special. She believes that professional doesn't mean boring. And I like the sound of that. Let's uncover how she's helping businesses today. We're really going to dig deep and find out why telling your story is really a way to make your brand enchanting. How are you doing today, Jamie?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. I'm so excited. I've been looking forward to having Jamie on the podcast for a really long time. She's got such a beautiful, unique way of doing websites. I'm with one of her clients, and I saw the exciting website that you did for Sabrina.
Yes, I love Sabrina's website. It turned out so
It
cool.
really did, and it really made her whole business come alive, I think, in IT. And you took an IT concept and really made it beautiful. I just loved it. So that's 8-Bit Insights. So if you want to check that out, I'll put that in the show notes as well.
She also did a podcast episode with you.
Yes, she did. You might remember her.
Should link that in the show notes too.
Yeah, we'll link this. Good point, Jamie. Good idea. So, Jamie, seriously, you started in zoology
I did.
at Michigan State,
Yep.
and then you transferred to digital media with the dream of being a video game designer. Wow. Can you talk us through that journey? How did that happen and how it led to founding this Spellbound Creative Studio, which is the name of your business? I want you to remember that Spellbound Creative Studio.
Yeah. So I guess my thought process going into this, like growing up, I was always torn between my left brain and my right brain. I really loved all of my creative pursuits, but then I also really loved school and I loved my intellectual pursuits. And so I would pursue all of these different drawing and painting and ceramics and glass art and wire art and performing arts experiences. But I also really, really loved animals. And I saw the wild thornberries when I was a child and I wanted to be a zoologist. But I did not remember saying that until I told my parents that I was going to school for zoology. And my mom found an old paper from, I think, kindergarten where it said, I'm going to be a zoologist like the wild thornberries. And so I started for zoology because I thought I was going to go learn about wild animals. I was going to go pre-vet. I was going to go the vet route, either be a wildlife vet or specialize in avian veterinary medicine because we need avian vets up here. We don't have any.
Well, with that, I think we should take a tangent. I'm going to interrupt for a minute and give you a minute to think about what you want to tell us about her beautiful birds. But by the way, funny enough, I was pre-vet.
Were you?
Yeah, I went to Michigan State and with every intention of becoming a veterinarian. And my family raised dogs, and my mom and dad had a pet shop, and we showed Boston Terriers all over the United States.
Oh my gosh.
When I was a kid. So I took zoology. I had all my pre-vet courses done and just didn't get into vet school. By the time I was about ready to do that, I pivoted into business.
Vet school is competitive.
Oh, it was so competitive.
It's more competitive than med school.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
I love that though. I love animals too, and that's why I named my book Charge Like
Yep.
Soul. Everything I do has to do with animals. So with that, tell us about your birds.
So I have 8 birds. I've had birds since I was a kid. We had a sun conure when I was a child who a sun conure.
What's that?
It's a small rainbow chicken. Very, very loud. I believe they're the 3rd loudest species in the world.
Okay.
Yeah, they like to scream, but they are so funny and they're so sweet and snuggly and adorable. But yeah, we had a sun conure who tragically passed when she was only 7, which is less than a third of their average lifespan. But then my parents came home with a cockatiel one day while I was at school, and we just said goodbye to her a couple months ago from so hard. She was the longest relationship that I have had outside of my family. She was 18 and a half. Bandit. She tried to steal my allowance one day, so we named her Bandit. But she was very sweet. And then we ended up getting another cockatiel a year later. And my husband, who has always loved birds but never had them until he met me, we moved in together. We brought the cockatiels down, and then we went and got a green cheek conure, who is a very spicy goblin. But we've still got him. He's very sweet most of the time. And then it's like tattoos or some kind of addiction. We got another one a year later. So we had 4 by the time I graduated college. And then we moved back up to Traverse City. Once we got our own place in Traverse City, we ended up bringing home 2 more. And so then we were at 6. And we were at 9 for a while. But then after we lost Bandit a couple months ago, now we're at 8. And we're staying at 8 because we've also got a toddler. And that is a lot to handle on a daily basis.
So cool, so unique. It's what I love about this podcast. I find out so many cool things about all these entrepreneurs and founders that they have multiple ways to keep themselves engaged.
And very, very busy, sometimes driving me crazy.
Oh yeah. In the day when we had the pet shop, we would have exotic birds at times, and there's a lot of cleanup.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of cleanup with birds, but they are very cool. Now, are those birds as smart as crows? Do they have highly intelligent?
They are highly intelligent. I don't think they're at like the Corvid level intelligence, but they do still possess about like the mental capacity of probably a 5-year-old.
Isn't that
anywhere from like a 3 to a 5-year-old, and they remain that in that mental state for their entire lives. So we've got toddlers for the next 20, 30 years.
Oh, God bless you. That is amazing. That's so amazing. Wow, that is so cool. And so with that, I was just wondering how you came up with the name Spellbound Creative Studio.
So that came from after I left my very, very toxic job at the end of April 2024. I went full-time into my own design business, which I had started freelancing in 2020, and it was kind of a last-minute thing. I had a contract already coming in, but I was going to be making enough money that I felt like I needed an LLC. So I got that registered, and I didn't have time to actually put a bunch of thought into the name and if I was actually going to pursue it as a business, because they mentioned wanting to hire me full-time. So I just went with Jamie Renee 3D and Design. Like, it's simple, it's my name, it's what I do, we're good.
Sure.
So then I left my job and I just decided that I was going to stick with that name. But the more that I was trying to nail down who I wanted to work with, it didn't really fit. So I went through a design business educational course that like really teaches you how to run a design business and how to offer like really stellar client processes and a really great client experience. And I put myself through my own process. So I sat down, like, I love fantasy, but I love telling stories and like the kind of magic that can come from that. So I sat down, I was sitting on my couch in my office for, I think, 2 days with my notebook, just trying to brainstorm, okay, what fits with this kind of like feeling that I want to evoke from people. And the word spellbound has that sort of magical element, obviously with spell, but then also the storytelling element with bound. I'm picturing a bound book. So I came up with Spellbound and trying to think of other things because Spellbound design didn't feel like it fit. And I didn't know that if I wanted to only do design for the rest of my career. So I had potential growth in mind as well. So I'm thinking, okay, Spellbound Creative Studio. I'm offering branding and website design right now. But in the future, maybe I want to do copywriting. Maybe I want to do social media. Maybe I want to do 3D visualization for people. Or maybe I want to make a video game. So I just wanted it to encompass all of the different things that I may want to do in the future while still evoking that magical feeling.
It does definitely have a magical feeling, and I love the word creative. That is just, we're all born, I believe, to create, and I just think that's a great word. And I love studio because it totally talks to your artistic side.
Yes.
That's so cool. So what is the pivotal moment you realized that was there some like epiphany moment? Maybe it was because you hated your previous job.
For when I started my business. Yeah, so I
Oh, we can think reason, there's a reason for everything they say, and it's not always peaches and cream.
yeah. So this job that I started at it wasn't anything creative and nothing like I really pictured myself doing, but the culture when I started was amazing. Like this job was fantastic, even though it was a startup and they weren't paying a ton. Like the people, the work environment, everything about it, the way that they treated us was wonderful. And so I kept telling myself and my coworkers, like, I could stay here for the rest of my career
Wow.
and be perfectly happy. I can pursue my art on the side, like just whenever I feel the need to create something. And then I committed the capital sin in tech startup world of having a baby. It got very, very bad very fast after that.
That's amazing.
It really wasn't. It was so stressful. I
Yeah.
came back from maternity leave. I know. Eh, Yeah. I mean, the company had a female COO when I started, and she was fired not long after I had my baby. And then things just started spiraling.
Well,
I mean, they were bad before that, but yeah, the CEO was doing some not great stuff with this company.
well, I have to say that, it's not always the good things that pushes us to, the man upstairs has a way of having us directing our future. So that's interesting. And then you created Spellbound Studios and that Spellbound Studios step. And
Spellbound Studio. Yes.
studio,
Yep.
sorry. Spell Studio. All right. So that sounds like a huge challenge. And I know how you feel. When I worked for IBM, we had I was in the 80s though. And for whatever reason, there was a lot of us women decided that we would get pregnant about the same time. So when I got pregnant for Caitlin, there were probably four of us pregnant at the same time in the branch and generations.
Jeez.
And I had a confrontation with one of the guys, and he just said, what the roar on the floor is that you girls just think you can, go off and have your babies and be gone for 3 months and then you decide to come back and then who's holding down the fort while you're gone? It was brutal. So I was hoping that, that was in the 80s and now we're in 2025. It's still not easy, right?
No. And I mean, to be fair, that was just my experience at a very small tech startup in Traverse City. Like it, right. I know. I mean, that was in the 80s though. Like
Yeah.
maybe it's different in larger
Maybe.
companies, but I also know that it's still such a big struggle worldwide, but especially in the US right now.
Yeah. Well, that's definitely a challenge. So now that you're in your own business, you're your own boss,
I am.
and I'm sure that doesn't go through some challenges as well. Do you have any obstacles that you faced since you started your company?
I
It's only
mean,
been about
yeah. May 1st was the first day of me being full time in my own business. My boss can be a real hard ass sometimes.
that's
But no, I mean, I gave up a 40-hour per week job with being stressed about whether or not I was going to lose my job any given day because I had a child to take care for, uh, to now being stressed because I have to do everything else regarding running a business. So I have to do all of my marketing. I have to do all of my own accounting and bookkeeping. Like I have a CPA, but that's just for like, here, tell me how much I owe in taxes.
Right.
But yeah, it's a ton of work, but I'm able to set my own hours.
It's awesome.
I'm able to set my own hours. I'm able to work whenever I want to, really, if inspiration strikes, because especially doing something that's creative, it's not as easy as sitting down at a desk at 9 in the morning, being creative until 5 p.m., and then signing off and just turning off that part of my brain. I get some of my best ideas as I go to bed. And it drives me nuts because I have to go to bed so early now. But no, being able to take command of my own days has been
You'll never
incredible.
be-
I know that was the biggest thing after that initial freelance contract where, like I said, they said that they were planning to hire me full time. They were just waiting on approval for the funding. I was working as a contractor for them for over a year, and then they very suddenly laid off the entire design team.
Whoa.
So I lost that contract, and I hadn't been marketing myself as a freelancer because, like, I don't need to worry about that. I'm going to have a full-time job at this really awesome company. And then spent the last 3 months of 2021 desperately searching for a job. And that itself was a big burnout. But yeah, I had the freedom while I was doing that contract to do whatever I wanted with my days. I would wake up when I wanted. I would work for however long I wanted. As long as I got my work done, I was getting paid. And I always got my work done. It's
Isn't that
wonderful.
Well, what type of clients really light you up creatively? And this is specifically really targeted to the viewers and the listeners, because it's not always about what you want. It's about what is a good match
Mhm.
between a vendor and a customer.
Yeah.
So, what kind of client really makes you happy, and what do they usually come to you, and what are they struggling with?
So I say that I am industry agnostic. I do not niche down by industry. I niche down by people being like-minded with me and knowing that we have like similar communication styles, that we're just gonna vibe well. Which I don't like using that word. that we're gonna get along, you know? But generally I will at least talk to most people that come through my inquiry form, unless it's like very clearly a scam, which I've had a couple of those. But I'll talk to them, and if it's something that I never would have really considered before, if they can get me excited about it because they are passionate about what they do, then I want to work with them. Because if they're excited about it, then that gets my mind going for all of these different creative ideas. And I'm like, oh, okay, so we could do this and it would look amazing. And yeah, if they can get me excited about what they do, then I want to work with them.
Very cool. Very cool.
Mm.
So, what kind of problems do they usually come to?
So most of my clients so far have been like brand new businesses. So they don't have any kind of branding, they don't have a digital presence, or they've got this very basic DIY setup. I have done a few rebrands that they had DIY'd their stuff and then decided that that was no longer serving them, that they were ready for more. But the issue that they usually come to me with is that they don't currently have an effective way to communicate with their target audience, or maybe they don't even have their target audience nailed down. So the very first part of working with me, I ask so many questions in this very, very long series of questionnaires because I have to get to know my clients' businesses inside and out. I have to know what their driving factor is for why they do what they do. I have to know their story of how they got into it and what they want their brand to convey to other people. And so I've had people text me while working on their questionnaires, and they're just like, I am learning so much about myself right now that this is amazing. Thank you for asking me these questions. And it's a very introspective
Sounds
experience.
that's identity is so important. And when you're
Yeah.
creating a business, the business has an identity too.
Yeah.
And so I think it's hard for them to distinguish between their own identity and this new entity's identity. And I just think that's fascinating.
It is. That's
So,
one of the reasons that I ended up changing my business name, because when it was my own personal name, I was too close to it that I couldn't actually see the bigger picture. So I changed my business name, and then I was able to treat Spellbound Creative Studio as a client and not myself.
awesome.
So it's a
And
very
it is an identity,
transformational
and it
thing.
will become your second child, or,
Yes.
it really will
Yep.
become and they're not always well behaved. I'll tell you.
No, they're
So what do you wish more clients understood before they hired a designer or a brand strategist? And we really haven't gotten into that too much. So before you answer that, will you tell us exactly what a brand strategist is?
Yeah, so pretty much what I was just saying about all of those questionnaires, a brand strategist is going to take everything that they learn about your business and compile that all together into its own story, but also do research on all of your competitors, identify, like, do a SWOT analysis. So strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. They're gonna go through and figure out, okay, this is the kind of visual messaging you want to convey. So then this is the kind of visuals that we should pair with that. It's really taking everything that they learn about your business and packaging it into one nice little neat way of communicating with your target audience. But then that's just the more abstract and conceptual aspect of it. The visual design is where that strategy is put into visual storytelling.
What tools do you use?
I primarily use Adobe Suite. Affinity is also a great suite. I haven't used it, but I have a lot of designer friends who do, and they swear by it. But yeah, I use Adobe Illustrator primarily to create original graphics, and then I use Procreate or just a sketchbook to sketch out all of my ideas. And then in design, when I'm putting together brand guidelines books, I use Photoshop to put together mock-ups. I'll use Figma or Adobe XD to put together website wireframes. And then I primarily design websites in Showit and Wix Studio, but I have done Squarespace, and sometimes it is a pain.
Wow, talk about skills. I just appreciate that so much because all of those Adobe, what she just mentioned with the Adobe product line and the other tools, those skills take years to perfect. And as you know, they change every month. Don't you agree? I mean,
Oh yeah, I mean, at least every year for sure. They've got new.
them is changing.
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, let's switch gears a little bit. Looking back, what's one insight that you wish you had had when you first began starting out? Like if you could look back.
Hmm. I think pricing myself a little bit better and like valuing my skills over my time,
Absolutely.
because that's one thing that is not standardized within the design industry is pricing. So you can go and find someone offering to do a full branding suite for $200 or $300, but then they are losing hundreds or thousands of dollars on that because of how long it takes. Or there's so many people who think that, oh, well, this is only going to take you this long, so it should only cost me this much. But they're not taking into account all of the time and experience that you have and all of the skills that you have learned. So, like, I started taking graphic design courses in, I think, my second or third year of college, which was way too long ago. And like I've just been honing those skills since. Yeah.
That reminds me a lot of some of the work I did in Charge Like a Bull. One of the things that I've learned in my experience in business is that it's so critical that you keep an eye on your profit margin from day one.
Yeah.
And then with that, you're able to pay yourself well. And you're also able to pay when you have employees, you're able to share that with them. And if you get large enough, you may end up with an investor, and they're going to want to see you having a really good return on investment with the purchases that you make. And another thing that comes to mind is really having a client or clients that will help you fuel your revenue powerhouse. And what I mean by that is you'll want to think about getting clients that not only want you for this brand design and the web design, but not one and done.
Right.
You'll want them to engage with you for internal projects. They may have an intranet, a larger company, where they use technology to communicate to their HR. They may want a real premium suite of like a monthly service agreement
Mhm.
to keep because the websites just like everything, they'll want that maintained and changed.
Oh, yeah.
So that way you'll have that revenue powerhouse client that will continue to help feed your business and help you grow. So those are a couple of things that I like. Well, let's just show some of the key takeaways for our listeners. Jamie, what strategies would you recommend to entrepreneurs looking to infuse more storytelling and branding into what they do to make sure that their brand resonates? How do they do this self-discovery, and how would you suggest for people to kind of do like what you did and take a couple days and do a little self-reflecting? What would you
Yeah, so
suggest?
definitely self-reflecting. It's a very transformational experience trying to build your own brand. I'm gonna give a very, very nerdy answer and say build a character as if for a D&D game,
Oh,
but make it your brand. Like make your brand a D&D character, give it a personality, and then try to get to know that person because you need to know your characters. And the biggest thing for starting and running a business is you need to know your target audience and your ideal client. So make at least one ideal client avatar. You can have multiple, but make at least one that fits right in the center of your target audience. And then build your brand personality and figure out how that person is going to connect with your ideal client. Because
well,
people connect through stories.
let's play a little. Let's say
Okay.
I want to have a target audience for a second stage CEO who's
Okay.
they're running their business, their company's plateaued. How would how would I target? Because that's really my target. It's for entrepreneur mindset, business owners, founders have started their company, and maybe they had some success at the beginning, but they're finding that they plateaued a little. And how should I do that? How do I create that persona?
So do you have a personality already for your brand?
Well,
Or
let's
are you
see.
starting straight from scratch?
Well, the personality is me, because this happened to me. I
Oh, okay.
basically had what I just described,
Right.
great success, and then things plateaued. And I just knew inside that, well, it was electronic medical records. And at first it kind of took off, but then it was before HIPAA and it was before all the laws that were required for electronic medical records. But I knew it was the next big thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just wanted to get unstuck, and I wanted to really, and I knew I had to educate my clients. I knew that, but I was really struggling because I knew I had a breakthrough value proposition. I knew I was in a high growth industry,
Mm-hmm.
being in healthcare and IT. I did have a good IBM business partner. I had a good partner, and my clients were hospitals. So at that
Okay.
time, but now my clients are hospitals. Clients are people that are running businesses and they want to really break through and grow like I did to $100 million in sales. And so, um, I kind of playing now to see how do we create a persona?
So a persona for your ideal client
Yeah,
or
for
okay.
the client.
So for your ideal client, you're going to want to think very much about like just give them a name first. Give them a name. How old are they? Where do they live?
Call him Bob.
Okay. How old is he?
He's 47.
Where does he live?
He lives in Detroit.
Okay. What does he do for work?
He owns a small company that is making automotive uh, aftermarket parts and making for the automotive industry.
Okay. Does he have a family, like wife,
Oh, yeah.
kids?
He's got a
Okay.
wife. He's got kids almost going to college about. They're going to start going to college, so he's nervous about paying for that. He's probably got about 20 employees, maybe 30 employees.
Okay.
And so he's worrying about, a lot of things. He's got payroll and, health care and all the things that go along with that. But he still wants to grow his business.
Right. Okay. So then in this sort of scenario, you really want to dive into like this person as just a whole person. Like I've had clients before where we focus specifically on this person as it relates to the business, and that doesn't generally go over very well. It makes it very difficult to be able to connect with them from a branding standpoint. So you need to start asking questions like, okay, what are their hobbies? Where do they go for fun? Like, what do they do for fun? Do they go hang out in coffee shops? Do they like to work from coffee shops? Do they like to take a family trip every year? Like, what are,
Do that. That's absolutely doable.
yeah,
Wow, this isn't as hard as it sounded.
no, it's not. You just make up a character in your head and write it down.
Very cool.
It's,
So, what's next? What's your next big adventure for Spellbound?
oh man. Right now I'm still just trying to grow my own client base, honestly. I think that I'm hoping sometime within this year to start offering copywriting services. But I'm continuously trying to expand my knowledge base. Like I am obsessed with learning. I've always loved learning, and so I'm working on learning different website development platforms, like Shopify especially because that is the leading e-commerce site. Um, but then also WordPress. But yeah, I think next step is one, hopefully a new laptop, and then also adding copywriting services.
Well, that's exciting. I know that everyone, marketing has changed so much. It's so digital that all of the skills that you have is definitely positioning you for a very strong presence in whatever. I think anything and all the things you said with your skill base, you've got this. You've got
Well,
this.
thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yes, I do. I mean, because I'm in the market for people like you all the time. Help me, help me, help me, help me figure this out. Because I'm more, how do you work on the business, not in the business?
Yeah.
So when I'm trying to work in my business, I rely on people like you very much.
It's really hard to get yourself out of it to see the big picture. Because, I mean, you're so in it every single day that it's easy to get caught up in the details and easy to get lost in whatever you're trying to do at that point, as opposed to seeing, okay, how is this actually going to impact my business long term?
Mhm. And when I look for somebody that is going to, do those, I decide I'm going to outsource this, I'm going to hire somebody to do this copywriting job or create this email campaign for me or create a new website or a new couple landing pages. I want to go to somebody that knows what they're doing and that has a track record, because I don't have, I don't have uh, time or I really want to help everybody out. But if they don't have those deep skills, there's a lot of, definitely want to go to somebody that knows what they're doing.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
I think
That's why you hire a CPA if you're not a tax person.
yeah, I love. So in your own words, what does charging like a bull mean to you?
That's a great question. So to me, that means being yourself unapologetically and moving forward with confidence without caring what other people are going to think about you.
Absolutely. I love it.
The hard obstacle to overcome is caring about what other people think about you.
It's it's so important. But I heard a saying once and it's helped me more ways than that. And it sounds a little I don't like being blunt. I'm not a blunt person. It sounds a little blunt. It's when you're being yourself
Hmm.
and you're not sure if somebody's looking at you sideways or if they accept you. You know what they say is some do, some don't. So what?
Yeah.
Some do, some don't. So what? That really helps me a lot. So, where can our listeners and viewers find you and learn more about your work? And I'm sure they're very eager to do that.
So you can find my website at spellboundstudio.com, or you can find me on Instagram and Threads at spellbound.creativestudio. I'm on TikTok as Spellbound Creative Studio, but I'm not super active on there lately. And then I've got a Facebook page too that's just Spellbound Creative Studio.
Fantastic. Well, I'm sure we'll get there. And I will put those in the show notes. But Jamie, it's been a pleasure having you today. I really have enjoyed this. So I want to give you a gift. So it'll be yours.
Oh, thank you.
This is Charged Like a Bull, the book with the 7 strategies
I
for
can't wait to read
relentless
this.
business growth. Hopefully it'll help you out.
Yeah.
And here's the workbook. If you wanted to skip the 450 pages, get right to work, I have a workbook that goes with it.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. I'm so excited. So I hope they support your journey and really helping you craft where you're going. So thank you for tuning, guys, into
Yes,
Bullish
thank
in
you.
Business. And thank you. If you're ready to elevate your brand and tell your story with authenticity and flair, subscribe and join us next time. Share and subscribe. Remember, in business and branding, boldness and authenticity are your superpowers. So, last thing I want to say is the bull doesn't ask for permission to enter the ring, it charges. See you next time.